4 seed, which brings us to breaking news as we say hello to our senior insider, Shams Charania. Shams, what is developing here outside of Milwaukee?
Malika, sources tell me that Giannis Antetokounmpo and his agent, Alex Saratas, have started open conversations that are active right now with the Milwaukee Bucks about the realities of whether his future is best staying in Milwaukee or the realities of moving on elsewhere. And my understanding is a resolution to this and whether this could lead to a trade request is expected in the coming weeks. So there's a timeline there. As you said, 9-13 overall. They just lost a 16-point lead to the Washington Wizards on Monday. And I'm told Giannis Antetokounmpo has been frustrated over the recent losing, but so have John Horst, the general manager, Doc Rivers, the head coach. There's been a lot of frustration within that Bucks organization over the losing, and also a sense of tension around the locker room about what this means for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I had one source even tell me and describe the situation as the writing on the wall for what's to come with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He was sold potentially on a championship vision by John Horst and Doc Rivers, returned, recommitted to this team. But this is a situation where this Bucks organization could be faced with serious consequences depending on how the season continues to play out.
Okay, so the writing is on the wall here for how this could go if the Milwaukee Bucks are not able to make some sort of drastic change now that we're at this quarter mark of the season. Shams, thank you so much for that insight. I'd like to welcome in Chiney Ogwumike, Danny Green. In some ways, this feels like an inevitability, Danny, but I'm curious your reaction to the news that now we are marching towards the point that Giannis could not be on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Are we shocked? I'm not shocked. I don't think anybody is shocked. We've seen him, again, I didn't think he'd be one of those guys to take down Instagram posts, but he's shown signs in the past, even before yesterday, that he's been frustrated and that it was time for him, that he wanted to be out. His family moved back to Greece. They should have probably looked at this and entertained this past summer. They tried to double down, sign Miles Turner. They got rid of Dame. This was a lot of bad moves, and right now, what we expected is coming to a head. We thought it would happen earlier. They played well earlier. But right now, him being out, having those injuries, having that little groin situation, and Ryan Rounds being his next best player is showing like I can't win with this. I can't do anything with this, and he's just very frustrated as a superstar player. Yeah. And he wants a fresh start somewhere else.
Yeah, I know it's unfortunate as someone who probably wanted to be there as long as possible, but what I think about is that I'm not surprised because they've exhausted all options, in my opinion. They not only emptied the cabinet, they emptied the kitchen, and on top of it, for their future, they mortgaged their house. So what else is left for them to sort of move, whether it is with assets or just on the team, to maintain this expectation and vision that they collaborated on to win a championship? But, like, if this is the case, what a championship team would be getting is someone over the last 3 years that averaged 30 and 10 and 5 on 60% shooting. It would be huge. A huge move.
Right. So since we're talking about ways in which the Milwaukee Bucks still, again, Shams is reporting that we're inching closer to what has felt like a situation that's going to come to a head at some point, whether it's during the season or in the summer. We're asking what it is the Milwaukee Bucks can do to salvage this, if anything. And that seems like a question for our front office insider, Bobby Marks. So let's bring in Bobby now. Bobby, what options here does Milwaukee have?
Mr. Marks.
Yeah, Malika, they're running out of options here. I think once we get to December 15th, most of their roster, if most of the players are eligible to be traded. So you're looking at, can a combination of Kyle Kuzma and Bobby Portis get you something out in the marketplace here? Two players that make a combined $37 million. Remember, they've got one first-round pick to move in a deal, one in either 2031 or 2032. This is a roster that is top-heavy in contracts, unless you're going to move off Miles Turner, who's trade eligible starting on December 15th. So from a purely looking at it from Milwaukee's perspective, Malika, there's not much left there to go out and move.
Something we do know about John Horst, the Milwaukee Bucks general manager, though, is if there is a move to be made, whether it is stretching Damian Lillard's contract, he has gotten crafty in order to try to maintain this roster at a championship level without Giannis, but they're running out of options. As we say hello to our senior insider, Brian Windhorst. Brian, if they're not able to get to that point, which it seems increasingly likely that the Bucks will not, who's picking up the phone and calling the Bucks for Giannis here?
It won't be that way. It'll be Giannis instructing the Bucks where he wants to be traded, and then the Bucks trying to make the best possible deal with that team. And this already happened. Shams reported this a couple of months ago. You can put out whatever verbiage you want around it about whether he requested it or asked for it or hinted at it, but he basically said, I want to be a Knick. Can you make me a Knick? And they had discussions for some period of days, and that those talks didn't progress, and so they dropped it, and he reported to camp and tried to focus on it. The big difference between Giannis now and in previous years is that in previous years, the Bucks roster was built out better to handle him and support him.
Sure.
The last 2 years, he's missed 24 games. In those games, they're 12-12, and they won 49 and 48 games those 2 seasons. They were really good when Giannis was out there, and when he wasn't, they held the line. This year, they're 1-5 when he doesn't play. It's really 1-6 because he left one game in the first quarter. They lost it. When he's been on the court, they've been 500. This team is significantly below where it's been. Giannis is just following up on actions he's already set in motion.
They've lost 8 of their last 9 games, and of course, as you can see, Giannis hasn't always been available this season. He's had some knick-knack injuries here. But you bring up a good point, Brian, in that this was the situation over the summer. They got off to a hot start. I'm curious, though, bringing back Shams Charania here, what happened that made Giannis say, okay, I want to start the season and stay in Milwaukee, and what's changing now?
Look, essentially, there were failed trade talks in August. There was a multi-week exclusive negotiating window for the New York Knicks, as it was described to me, on a potential Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. They were aware, the Bucks were aware, the parties that needed to know were aware that Giannis Antetokounmpo, if there was a team outside of Milwaukee, he wanted to play for the Knicks. No deal happened. And John Horst, the Bucks general manager, who has creatively made time and time again, Drew Holiday in 2020, Damian Lillard in 2023, then the Miles Turner acquisition, he has creatively found ways to maneuver and make this team better. He had done it again, and Doc Rivers, they had sold Giannis Antetokounmpo and ownership on a championship contending team. And the result, this is a results-based business, a results-based situation. Giannis Antetokounmpo has made it clear he wants winning. And so the results have spoken for themselves. And if they keep trending this way, this is just the start for even more hard conversations to come. And also, like I keep saying, the inevitable writing on the wall, as one source told me today.
I think that you point out an important characteristic. Giannis, all of us know him as a winner. That has been a driving force for him since he came into the NBA. But he is the 3rd longest player to sit with any current franchise, trailing only Steph Curry and Draymond Green. He's been with the Milwaukee Bucks since 2013, 2014. And so what you don't expect is the Milwaukee Bucks to move on from a player like this in a market like Milwaukee easily. So, Brian, what do you expect the next several weeks or even months to look like as we march toward the February 5th trade deadline?
Yeah, so this is what's going to come down to is whether Giannis instructs the Bucks to re-engage the Knicks or not, or if he moves into the direction where he wants to trade, would he widen that list? The thing is, the Knicks were not in the best position to trade for Giannis in August because they had just extended Mikal Bridges and he wasn't able to be traded. It was a strange time that Giannis would approach the Bucks about that situation. It would be different after December 15th when more players are available to be traded. The Knicks really believe in this roster. When they engaged in those talks, they thought this team could potentially win the Eastern Conference and challenge the Western Conference champion, whether it's the Thunder or whomever. I'm not so sure the Knicks are on the same page. So the Knicks, I'm sure, when this news reaches the Knicks internally are going to have discussions about what they offered in the summer and whether they're going to be willing to change their offer if the phone rings again coming from Milwaukee. And if you're a couple other teams that you may think would have interest in Giannis, you're having meetings in the next 12 to 24 hours to figure out what your offer might be if Giannis says he would be interested in your team.
Well, if you're the New York Knicks and those conversations hadn't reached you before 12 o'clock Pacific today, they've certainly reached you now that our show's been on air. And if you're a player for the Milwaukee Bucks, ESPN's on every TV and all the bars and in the locker room and all these different places. If you're walking past the TV right now and you're a Milwaukee Bucks player and you're seeing our show right now, are you hoping that this is something that's resolved quickly so they can move on either way? Or are you just hoping that eventually this will sort itself so that Giannis is a Buck for life?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of the situation multiple times.
Right.
In Philly with Ben Simmons, James Harden. I've been in San Antonio and Kawhi trades. You just hope that this is not a distraction for a long period of time. Whether it's good or bad, you just want it to be settled and over with so you don't have to answer questions for other guys that are not yourself and looming around your whole season and your whole group and atmosphere and locker room about this scenario. So, yeah, you just kind of want to get it done and over with as soon as possible, but you hope that the best situation happens for you and your group But that may not happen. But I'm sure they're trying to find ways to keep Giannis in-house.
Based on how this has gone so far and what Shams is saying, there have been incremental changes. It's not necessarily something that we expect to be resolved in the next couple of days, but we'll certainly keep following it over the next couple of weeks. But since we're speaking about the New York Knicks, let's stick in the East here. That's where the Knicks and Celtics, they battled last night in TD Garden, and this was their 500th regular season meeting between these two storied franchises. Of course, we've seen these battles play out in the regular season and high-profile playoff series. But last night, for number 500, Danny, we got a good one, thanks to Jaylen Brown, who really took it up a notch here in the second quarter.
Yeah, he was aggressive. He's been playing great all year. Shout out to him, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, winning games with a depleted roster.
All of a sudden, it's an 8-point game here, Shanae.
You know what I like? I like how he's different. It's like he changes his stripes depending on the game. Sometimes he passes, but this game he's like, I'm going to the rim just like this. Hello.
An exclamation mark there, and all of a sudden on that miraculous, incredible slam, the Boston Celtics take the lead. And he didn't stop there, Shanae. He continued it on.
Yeah,
Jaylen Brown cooking.
You see that move right there?
Hit the brakes. JB, where you going?
Jaylen Brown had 18 points in the second quarter. Shanae, I think this deserves a closer examination with some court vision.
We're here in the game. Let me show you how Jaylen Brown is putting his whole team on his back. He's one of the heaviest isolation scorers in the NBA, which means he's always hunting switches. He wants Brunson right here, who is highlighted, and finally, after a couple of screens, he gets what he's wanted. Now, check it out from my point of view. He's using his hand to really create some confusion on the backside, but then he gets to his move. Everyone knows he loves to go right. He drag dribbles to the left. That's the growth right there. And then look at the push to create separation, which leads to elevation on this beautiful shot. Oh my gosh, my guy was cooking. 14 for 18 from 2, and look at that hairline. It's looking pretty crispy. Jaylen Brown has been amazing for the Boston Celtics lately, and I feel like it's time now to get back to the highlight.
Today, you are crazy for that. All right, picking us up in the fourth quarter, New York made it a game. 7 minutes left here. The Knicks down 9. Karl-Anthony Towns cleans it up, plus the foul. After the free throw, the Knicks within 6 here. Again, a 6-point game. Brunson drives, finishes inside. The Knicks cut the lead to 4. And then Boston here.
Look at that movement. Oh, my God.
Derek White hits the 3. He finished with 22 in this one. Brown led all scorers with 42. Here's JB after the game.
This is a great win for us, man. That was a great win. I'll take every one we can get. Obviously, a team that knocked you out in the playoffs, it's even sweeter to come back. But it's just one game, so we just got to focus on the next one now, and that's what's most important.
Okay, but maybe it's not just one game, because over the last 10 days, the Boston Celtics, they've defeated 4 of the top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference, 3 of those wins as the betting underdog. And Jaylen Brown, he's averaging a cool 32, 7, and 7 in those 4 games.
Nation, happy to be back. Happy to be back. Let's get to it.
You got it. 1 second left.
This is one of those things I kind of manifested for a long time. Sort of tried to speak it into existence. There's been a lot of history here, and hopefully we can create more.
Breaking news that shocked the basketball world. In the middle of the night, Chris Paul posted on his social media saying, quote, "I just found out I'm being sent home." The 12-time All-Star, a future first ballot Hall of Famer, he spent 6 years with the franchise before coming back for this, his final season. So for more on this stunning decision, our senior insider Shams Charania is back with us. Shams, how exactly did the Clippers get to this point?
Malika, sources told me that Chris Paul and his leadership style just simply clashed with the Clippers from a management level, coaching staff level with Ty Lue, players level even. And the tipping point really came with how Chris Paul has been throughout his career. Vocal with players, with coaches, with the front office. And I'm told he increasingly became vocal about how he felt the coaching staff potentially could make decisions early in the season as this team started to struggle. And clearly, Ty Lue and Chris Paul ended up having issues, because I'm told Ty Lue simply was not on speaking terms with Chris Paul for the last several weeks. And one source told me that it felt like Ty Lue felt like Chris Paul might have been stepping on toes. Whatever the case may be, Chris Paul is now out and they've sent him home. And he obviously felt like he could still play for this team and be a contributor, but the Clippers wanted to move on, and they did so overnight.
And this, I think, Shams, is so stunning because we're talking about an NBA legend here being, as you said, sent home, not waived, but sent home. He ranks 16th in games played. He's second in assists, second in steals in NBA history. He's a 5-time assist champ, a 6-time steals champ, and the only guard to make more all-defensive teams than CP3 is Kobe Bryant. So the president of basketball operations for the Clippers, Lawrence Frank, he was asked earlier this morning about the situation. Take a listen.
These are very, very, very hard decisions. And ultimately, it's my job to do what's best for the organization, do what's best for the team, even if it's not popular. I mean, look, right now we're playing bad basketball. We're on both ends. We're a bad basketball team, and we're capable of being a whole lot better than 5-16. Chris, has, a very good leadership style. He's led a lot of teams, and he's led a lot of teams as being, one of the best players, if not the best player on the team. Like I said, the role, some moves you make, roster moves you make, just like you have great intentions, and some work and some don't. And I own that. And this one just didn't work at this time.
So now welcoming in our senior writer, Brian Windhurst. Brian, what did you make? This, I think the situation is incredibly odd. What did you make of how this played out?
It is odd.
Yeah.
Basically, when I talked to people today, Chris Paul was being Chris Paul, which is that he has something to say to teammates, to coaches, to the front office. He views it as keeping it accountable. Whether it's always received that way, it depends. The difference is that for 19 years, Chris Paul has always been a star or the starter playing big minutes. When you are the 9th, 10th, 11th man, sometimes not even playing 12 for 13 minutes a game, when you do, it hits differently, it feels differently, and this is a role that Chris has never been in before, and it wasn't working. And frankly, if you have a situation where you might need to make a change and you can, take a player away who plays a very small role, even if that player is a very high-profile player, it's easier to do when it's a bit role. I don't think the Clippers handled this well at all. I don't think that there was good, expectations set from the beginning. I think doing this in the middle of a road trip, very late at night, was also a mistake. But ultimately, I think the Clippers are trying to do something to keep the team together. And Lawrence Frank obviously viewed this in response to what I think was several people wanting this on the roster and on the coaching staff.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wendy. I'm a bit confused, more than a bit. I just don't understand. You couldn't have a conversation. Everybody knows who Chris Paul is. He's one of the most decorated, one of the best point guards in the history of our game. And you send him home like he's a child is kind of crazy to me. You knew who he was. You knew how he acted. You know what he brings to the table. So for you to like I said, treat him this way is very bad on the Clippers organization. I hope for Chris's sake it's not worse, but I hope for the Clippers organization that there's something more than just him being a distraction in the locker room where you can't have a conversation. Because this is not enough. This is not enough to send a 20-year vet, when most places, one of the best point guards in the history of our game, home, and when you guys are playing such bad basketball in the beginning of the season.
And you know who you signed.
And this is retiring. This is retirement year. He's announced that he's retiring. This is how you treat one of the, in our fraternity, in the NBA, it's a bad look for the Clippers organization right now.
I'm not Chris Paul, but I woke up at 5 a.m. feeling disrespected. You know what I mean? And that's because I grew up and admired and got to know and understand Chris Paul. And if anybody else knows that, it's the Clippers. And to handle this situation, this is not how you want to make news. We all know, and even if he was probably pushing for more of a bigger role, hypothetically, he's 40 years old. Like, the realities are coming, but this is not how you handle it. In communication, I was confused also because we heard two different things. Oh, he has a good leadership style, but it's not the leadership style that we need right now.
Right.
But if anybody knows his leadership style, it's the Clippers. So I really feel for him. And like we said, we started off this year with a beautiful press conference where you were, Malika, talking about how important the season was.
Yeah.
This was dropping the ball and handling this.
And I think you two are not the only, we are not the only ones that are confused here. I want to bring in our front office insider, Bobby Marks, back into this conversation because, Bobby, I think that I've seen a lot of places folks say that Chris Paul is being waived or he's not on the roster. None of that is the case. He was just sent home. So the next question is, what happens now?
Yeah, we're going to be in a holding pattern a little bit here, Malika, and here's why. Chris Paul signed a contract this offseason. He can't be traded until December 15th, so we're still 12 days from that. He can't be waived because if the Clippers waive him, they can't sign a 14th player because they are not enough below the first apron here. So you have to have 14 players on your roster. He can certainly entertain a buyout, but if you're going to do the buyout route, who out there has a roster spot? Malika, there's 10 teams that have an open roster spot. And guess what? 9 of them are either in a luxury tax or impacted by this first or second apron, including the Los Angeles Lakers, the Houston Rockets, and the New York Knicks here. So I would expect this thing to drag on a little bit here. And I don't see, although they sent him home, as you said, it doesn't mean that he's been waived. And we're going to be in a, as I said, a holding pattern a little bit here before this gets resolved.
And for Chris's sake, that I hope it gets resolved. Conversations with the Bucks about the two-time NBA MVP and his future. They're talking about whether his best fit is to stay in Milwaukee or to go elsewhere, with a resolution, Shams is saying, expected to come in the next couple of weeks. So let's talk about what those next couple of weeks look like here, Brian. What are your expectations for how we should be watching this and how it's going to play out?
Right. I mean, I don't exactly know by next couple of weeks exactly what Giannis might be thinking, but December 15th is the beginning of trade season in the NBA. And the reason is because just about everybody on the rosters in the league can be traded. A lot of players, dozens and dozens of them, are restricted until then. And so that would be a good time for Giannis to basically make a decision by. And I know that there's going to be a lot of teams that show interest here. Teams have been thinking about Giannis potentially being on the trade market for over a year. They can see what was in the Bucks, on their roster and what they had to trade. Frankly, the whole league was awestruck by the move that they made last summer, stretching Dame Lillard and then signing Miles Turner. And I can't emphasize this enough. Giannis saw that move and then was interested in being a Knick. He couldn't have been more clear about where he felt about the Bucks roster. And look, if the Bucks had come out and gotten off to a 15-5 start, they could have changed his mind. They are 9-13. They are 1-5 when he doesn't play. They are 500 when he does play. What else do you need to see? He does not have a championship roster right now. So what will really be incumbent here is two Giannis decisions. One, does he go forward and finally pull the lever and say, trade me, because he's danced around it for quite some time now? And two, when he does that, will there be a one team on the list like there was in the summer, or will there be multiple teams? That's the thing.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking for here over these next several weeks. And you make a good point, Brian, that this isn't necessarily the first time that we have heard this, but maybe the volume is being turned up here a little bit louder. And it could get even louder because, as Brian knows well, the Bucks' upcoming schedule, it doesn't get any easier from here. With 6 of their next 7 games, they come against teams with winning records, starting tonight against the top-seeded Detroit Pistons. So for more on this game, we say hello to our friend Vince Goodwill. Let's talk about this a little bit. Cade Cunningham, he's recently named, the Eastern Conference Player of the Month. But outside of Cade, what stands out about Milwaukee's opponent coming up here in the Detroit Pistons?
It's funny you mentioned the Milwaukee Bucks and what they don't have and what they'll be looking for, because the Pistons, outside of Oklahoma City, might have the best trove of young players on rookie-scale contracts in the NBA. Jalen Duren averaging almost 20 and 10. Asar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland. Not many teams have that, and this is still the bones, Malika, of a team that lost 28 straight games a couple of years ago. They used to find ways to lose. Now they're finding ways to win. They are 12-3 in clutch games so far this season.
And then you're talking about, though, we can't forget, you're going up against Giannis. He's playing at an MVP level. Despite all the conversations about the Bucks' struggles, Giannis has still been absolutely incredible. So what is Detroit's plan to be hard-nosed and try to slow down the former MVP?
Hey, them two nasty dogs, Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart. Isaiah Stewart came to me the other night and said, I need to be part of this Defensive Player of the Year conversation. And then I started looking up the numbers. He's the best interior defender in the game. 6th in the league in block shots, only playing 23 minutes a night. And he puts up the lowest opponent field goal percentage with him at the rim. So if Giannis being relentless going to the basket, he's going to have to deal with Stewart and Jalen Duren there to get there.
You know what else is good about Detroit being as good as they are? We get to say Detroit basketball all the time on the show now. Vince Goodwill, thank you so much for stopping by NBA Today. We want to turn now to another developing story, this one out of New Orleans. Pelican star Zion Williamson, he will miss an extended period of time with a right adductor injury. He's going to be reevaluated in 3 weeks. And interim head coach James Borrego spoke last night about the upcoming absence of Zion.
Nobody wants to be on the floor more than Zion. This guy loves the game, loves his city, wears this logo with great pride. He's here to support us. We're here to support him. This is a brotherhood. This is a family, and that's what we're going to lean into. As frustrating as it is for him, nobody's feeling sorry for us. We're not feeling sorry for anybody. We get back to work. It's time to go.
So since being drafted in 2019, Zion Williamson has missed 55% of his possible games for the Pelicans, including the 2021-2022 season, the entire season. Now this year, the Pelicans' net efficiency, it does improve by 10 points per 100 possessions when he's on the court. So back here with our Bobby Marks. Bobby, Zion signed his rookie max extension. That was back in 2022. But there are some details in his contract that are particularly interesting as injuries continue to pop up. Can you just remind us of what that is?
Yeah, Malik, it's one of the more unique rookie max extensions that we've seen here. He's got 3 years left on his contract. This current year, which is right around $40 million, is guaranteed, okay? Years 2 and 3 that are remaining are not guaranteed. So here you have what we thought was a franchise-level all-star player on a non-guaranteed contract for the last 2 years. Both have July 15th trigger dates here. So if you're a team out there that's interested in Zion Williamson, there's really not much risk about going about trading for him if you do not have to give up something of significance here. So a unique contract, it's a low-risk move if you are one of those teams out there, as I said, where you're not sacrificing draft picks and significant players on your own roster.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. I mean, because I really thought this was Zion's year to, get it right. You know, heavy Zion, skinny Zion, he just can't get his body in the right space. So to see him go through this and actually be in a year where he's trying, which it shouldn't take a non-guarantee or a contract year for you to get in that type of shape. But he's shown that he was committed. You know, he got on the diet. He started working out, started getting his body right, and he became the guy everybody wanted him to be. For him to still go through this while being in a great shape or his body in the best shape of his life that we've seen is very unfortunate. And I feel for him and the organization.
Yeah, I do too. I continue to say that this is just a bummer. NBA fans, we want to see Zion out on the floor, and no one wants that, as James Borrego said, more than Zion Williamson.
Right, and you have to understand that they have tried just about everything. They have changed training staff. They have changed chefs. They have changed coaches. He has changed representation. He has changed workout styles. Trust me, they have seen specialists. They have consulted people all over the planet on how to keep Zion healthy. They are continuing to try. And when it comes to what Bobby was talking about, Zion has almost next to no value right now for the Pelicans because of these injuries, they wouldn't be able to get value for him. They don't control their first-round pick this year because they've traded a swap to the Hawks, and so they're heavily incentivized to try to win as most games as possible. So I know this sounds like a broken record, but I think the pathway forward with Zion is continue to support him, like James Borrego said, and continue to try to exhaust all pathways to get him into a space where he can be the dominant player that he is.
Again, this is a right adductor strain for Zion Williamson, and we certainly hope that he gets healthy and better and on the floor soon, because that's the best version. We want to see Zion today. Early this morning, Clippers president Lawrence Frank said that the franchise has parted ways with future Hall of Famer Chris Paul. He has not been formally released by the team, but CP posted on his social media that he had been sent home. Now, our Shams reported earlier in the show that his leadership style, it clashed with the Clippers, and that Coach Ty Lue and the All-Star had not been on speaking terms for weeks. As we say hello to Om Young-Masuk, who's in Atlanta. That's where the Clippers play tonight. Om, this news, I think it shocked all of us, but the question that I keep coming back to, why did this happen now?
Yeah, Malika, the optics don't look good because Chris Paul posts on his Instagram story at 3:47 a.m. Or 2:47 a.m. that he basically has been told he's being sent home. And then I get a statement from the Clippers at like 3:07 a.m. Basically saying they're parting ways. But according to the Clippers and Lawrence Frank, this is the timeline. This is not one incident or one meeting that didn't happen or one meeting that led to this. This was something that Lawrence Frank says he and Chris Paul have had numerous discussions about. And then on Sunday, he made the decision that he was going to meet with Chris Paul and set up a time to make this decision to part ways. On Monday, he contacted Chris, and they were supposed to meet on Tuesday at the hotel in Atlanta. The Clippers were stuck on the tarmac in Miami for 6 hours due to mechanical issues. So they did not get in until late Tuesday night, and then they had a 3-hour emotional meeting where Lawrence Frank told Chris Paul that they were parting ways, and this just wasn't a right fit. And I'm sure Chris Paul went back at them because everything I've been told, this did come as a stunner to Chris Paul, who obviously probably did not see this coming. Yes, I think he knew that there were some concerns from the Clippers, but I don't think he thought it was going to come to this point.
Absolutely not, particularly when you're talking, Ohm, about a player who is brought in to have his retirement be a full circle moment. When the Clippers post on social media, welcome home, that this is going to be the last stop, that was the understanding for everyone. So I think everyone is stunned. I do want to bring in Tim McMahon, our senior writer, as well, because, Tim, you've been around this Clippers team these past couple of weeks. Were you as shocked as all of us were here?
I mean, everybody was shocked, but you don't treat a first ballot future Hall of Famer like this. And I wish for Chris Paul he would have retired this summer, going out as an 82-game starter who helped lift the San Antonio Spurs back towards relevancy. That would be a respectful, fitting way for one of the most ruthless competitors we've ever seen in this league to go out. He was hoping for the storybook ending, coming back home, and went from welcome home to stay your butt at home real quick. And here's the thing. Shams reported that he hadn't been on speaking terms for a while with Ty Lue. Let me be more specific. Ty Lue has refused to speak to Chris Paul for weeks now. Basically said, hey, go rot on the end of the bench like he's some kind of undrafted rookie. This is the point guard. If you didn't value Chris Paul's voice, why did you bring him back? Oh, his leadership style clashes? Did you not live with Chris Paul for years? Did you not know this is a guy who's going to call it as he sees it, who's going to be blunt, who's going to speak his mind when he sees something, who's going to try to hold guys accountable? This is an awful look for the Clippers. And by the way, the Clippers' hope to drag themselves out of this mess long term is via free agency. What kind of message does this send to stab a legend in the back, much like they stabbed Blake Griffin in the back? It's a terrible, terrible look for the LA Clippers.
Yeah, and you're looking at, teams, organizations that are trying to find their first ever championship and pursue a culture that is respectable. These are the things this year has been, for lack of a better way to say it, a hot mess, right? And when you talk about, relationships, it's quite interesting. But first, let me show you these numbers. It's unfortunate to see, based off of how things have gone down, this streak come to an end. Every year, Chris Paul steps to a team, he makes them better, except this year, which, mind you, we don't really care about this year because that's on its own remarkable. This is a legend of the game. This is someone who was a member of the top 75 team. And, I'm looking overall and I'm like, it's like you married someone, you know who that person is, and then you go back to it and you're like, oh, wait, it's the same person? That doesn't work out. Everyone understands the respect he demands. I just think that this is not their biggest problem, and addressing it this way now makes it an even worse problem.
I agree. Brian?
I think you have to remember that the Clippers thought that they could potentially win the Western Conference this year. They thought there was a better chance of being 16-5 right now than 5-16. And they thought that Chris Paul could potentially be a leader at the later stages of the season. Maybe he would come in and play 5 important minutes in a key playoff game. And when he is making when he's pulling guys aside and saying things, it hits differently when you're in, second to last place or wherever they're at in the Western Conference. So this vision for this entire team, with the way they were going to have these veterans on this team and the way they were going to play, has collapsed. The Chris Paul thing failing is just one of many things for the Clippers that has collapsed. And this was just something, as they try to turn things around, that was an easier fix. As raw and as coarse as that might be, that seems to be the decision the Clippers have made right now.
It's really interesting to me as we talk about the blame and the fault and where all of this is with the Los Angeles Clippers right now, because they've had a disastrous season. This isn't why they made the moves that they made. Lawrence Frank said in his statement to Ohm, who, by the way, has been working on this story round the clock, he said he wants to make very clear no one is blaming Chris for underperforming. I accept the responsibility for the record we have right now, and there's a lot of reasons why we've struggled. But this move, to me, the actions say the opposite of those words. And so that's really hard, I think, for a lot of NBA fans, myself included, to square right now. So certainly we will continue to follow this as it develops. I'm very curious to hear from the Clippers tonight after they play. But it's time now for Shoot Your Shot. It's brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. And not to brag, Dan and Sinead, you nailed your picks yesterday.
All right.
We are 5 and 5. So today, Sinead, you got KD at home. Shocking. Against the Kings.
It's at home in Houston. And the Kings, I feel like he can do some things.
And PG, he's taken Cade against the Milwaukee Bucks, going over that 27.5.
Don't rhyme with Bucks.
All right, Missouri viewers, DraftKings Sportsbook is now live at the Show Me State. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the app and use the promo code SCREEN when you sign up. By the way, the annual NBA on Christmas Day, the tradition continues. 5 star-studded games, ABC, ESPN, and the app. Of course, you can start your day with the Cavs and Knicks. Come all the way through with us to the Timberwolves and the Nuggets to cap off your night. By the way, an animated version of that Knicks game. It's going to be on ESPN2 and Disney+. Some sad news for the basketball world. Former NBA champion Eldon Campbell died on Tuesday. Clemson University shared the news earlier this morning. Now, Campbell, he remains the school's all-time leading scorer after a standout college career. He went on to play 15 seasons in the NBA after being drafted by the Lakers in 1990. He played alongside the likes of Magic Johnson, Shaq, Kobe over the course of 9 seasons. And Campbell would eventually win a title with the iconic 2004 Pistons, of course, against his former team. Campbell was just 57 years old. Our hearts are with Campbell's loved